Rampage.
Hey everyone, welcome back for some brand new content about the show that's finally back from that cold, long mid-season break, The Walking Dead. Warning, beyond this point there are spoilers for people who are not up to date on The Walking Dead TV series and comics. In this video, we're going to give you our Rampage recap of the long-awaited mid-season premiere that's been available for a whole week on the AMC Premiere service. AMC released an extended version of that episode, which we're also going to include in our recap, and point out a pretty big Easter egg Greg Nicotero left for us in the slow but satisfying episode. Finally, we're going to talk about the shocking confirmation that DANAI GURIRA is in fact leaving the show, and what all these major character exits are going to mean for the series that's just starting to get good again. First, let's dive right into the mid-season premiere, which has been hyped up so hard by AMC the last few weeks with trailers, graphics, posters, pretty much everything, plus the kitchen sink. We've already covered the opening minutes, but broad strokes, the group fights their way out of the cemetery, proves that they're still the toughest killers around, and bring Jesus with them because the survivors don't leave a man behind. But apparently, whisperers do know how to unlock gates. Overall, the extended version of the episode is about 2 minutes longer than the mid-season premiere that most people would watch live last night. Unfortunately, there are not any great deleted scenes like the one in 908 that hinted towards something going on between Rosita and Sadiq, which we'll get into more later. After the opening sequence, it's time to see what Negan has been up to. After breaking out of jail, Negan's first act is to steal some food and then a shovel, and then approach the house of a young female child he has weirdly befriended with his new shovel.
I need you to know me.
The extended version of the episode shows that Negan enters Michonne's room first before going to Judith's room, which, by the way, is gross. The extended cut also shows us where Negan got his shirt. If Rick was really dead, he'd be rolling over in his grave. Next, Negan makes his way into Judith's room, where we see one of her amazing drawings. Negan symbolically takes Judith's compass before he leaves the Grimes household. Can Judith really help Negan find his way? The action stays with the former Savior's boss as the next morning comes and he attempts to make his getaway. Doesn't Alexandria have lookouts? Michonne is going to be so pissed. Just as Negan can taste his freedom, Judith catches him in the act. This scene is a lot of fun, and the interaction in this episode between the two is actually amazing in spite of the fact that it's super creepy. Negan manages to convince Judith he'll be a good escaped convict if she lets him go, which she decides to do, but she promises Negan she'll shoot him if she sees him again. God, we love this kid. Side note, a little girl should never say this to an escaped convict killer.
Were you in my room?
What the fuck? The following scene starts something that's not going to end well as Luke strolls out into the hilltop for the day. His optimism is something we don't see in characters in the show anymore this late into the apocalypse, and it is kind of a breath of fresh air. Luke notices Alden, Tara, Enid, Marco, and reformed savior DJ all huddled around a map looking pretty serious and decides to approach the group, where he overhears that they are going to search for the cemetery crew. Luke and Alden have a meet cute moment and decide to pair up and go look for their friends. This is not looking good, people. On top of that, Enid says the worst thing anyone can ever say to anyone in a horror movie or show.
Just be safe out there.
Damn it, Enid. Didn't we learn from Daryl's mistake?
Be safe.
Next, we see where the cemetery group is at the following morning, along with a great opening shot of Dog. It kind of feels like they're all helping Eugene do his walk of shame, as he's the one that got everyone into this mess when he A, scared the horses, and B, jumped like an idiot and hurt his leg. The group talks about how sick and twisted the Whisperers are, and of course Eugene has to put in his 2 cents.
I suspect some vessel filled with a chunky salsa of abnormal impulses and metastasized rage.
They manage to get their horses, which they have wisely stashed, and start heading back towards the hilltop. During the return trip, we get a great scene with Michonne and Daryl talking about getting Jesus' body back, and then a touching moment of them both being sorry they couldn't find Rick's body, which we all know is still alive somewhere. Michonne hints at something Daryl did after Rick, which is most likely the X-Scars, but that's all she gives us for now. We can't wait for episode 14. The newcomers talk to Aaron about Jesus until Dog alerts them to another threat. He really is Daryl's bestie.
Good dog.
Next up is a sneak peek we've already seen as Daryl gives us the best Whisperer test yet. Lydia is captured and Michonne shows her who should be afraid of who.
You try anything, you won't have to pretend.
After the group leaves, the story cuts back to the adventures of Negan, who is wandering around the woods enjoying his newfound freedom. Here is an amazing spider shot as the first walker Negan has seen in probably almost 8 years sneaks up behind him as he sits in an old van. In classic Nicotero style, Negan literally takes the face off of the zombie, but doesn't kill it, until he delivers a classic Negan-style blow to the brain. A well-done walker gets a little handsy with Negan, who assures him no means no. Negan enjoys some lake water. Smart move, right? The next shot gives us a major Easter egg as Negan finds out what any Boy Scout knows. Don't drink the water without purifying it. The major Easter egg here, as Negan is very humbled, is the location. This area is known by the Walking Dead cast and crew, along with some fan circles, as The Clearing. Both words capitalized. The ominous name comes from the dirty deed that took place here starting in the Season 6 finale and finishing in the Season 7 opener. This is the place where Negan bashed in Glenn and Abraham's heads in front of the survivors with Lucille. This place has some bad juju, and it's very interesting to see Negan as the one on his knees, helpless in a way. It's also kind of twisted, but that's the mind of Greg Nicotero. After that, the story cuts to the cemetery group arriving back to the hilltop minus one live elected leader. Some of the saddest music ever plays, and Eugene is clearly taking responsibility for this as he looks downright devastated. This shot of Rosita and Siddiq together again alludes to something we'll see more of later. Aaron and Enid's hug feels sincere while Tara is in a daze. Following a commercial break, the story continues at the hilltop as Daryl and Michonne drag Lydia through the community to the prison. Tammy Rose, the wife of Earl the Blacksmith and mother of the ill-fated Ken from the Season 9 premiere, questions Tara about who Lydia is. It's clear Tammy wants Maggie-style justice, and she pressures Tara pretty hard in front of the community, which is kind of a dick move since Tara just found out Jesus died. We believe Tammy is getting set up to be one of the Pike death victims. Why give her character these lines? Anyone could ask Tara those questions. We feel the writers are incorporating her and her hatred for the Whisperers into the story so the viewers will be more connected to her when she loses her head. Look for other more minor characters to be featured that may have the same fate like Marco here. When we all see those heads on those pikes, we need to know who those characters are. Otherwise, it will have no impact. Plus, the show can't just kill only main characters. Daryl, Tara, and Michonne bring Lydia to her cell, and of course, Curious Henry wants to know what's happening. The scene cuts to Lydia's cell where Michonne is once again truly terrifying. Next, the show cuts back to the adventures of Negan as he loots a store looking for supplies. Here is one of our favorite scenes of the episode as Negan is chased by a pack of wild dogs. To see him not even be able to defend himself against an animal is a great scene that shows how power is fleeting and the powerful can eventually become the powerless. The dogs in this scene are actually really sweet dogs, but the animal trainers did an amazing job making them look terrifying. And we won't talk about how Negan just fed that dog to a walker. This scene was also extended by almost 40 seconds, but no real new details here. The story then cuts to Luke and Alden on their now pointless mission to find the cemetery group. In some cool 2-for-1 walker action, Luke almost gets himself killed until Alden delivers a Spartan-level spear throw to take out the walker as Luke can barely finish the crawler. They talk about the dreaded fair, and we're not even sure they'll make it that far. Luke comes up with a bright idea to follow Yumiko's arrows. Not a good day for decision-making, Luke. The duo notices a herd and decides to keep moving. After that, the story cuts to Lydia being interrogated with Tara and Michonne in her face as Daryl watches from outside the cell in a kind of cop-style interrogation. Lydia plays scared and innocent, claiming there are no more Whisperers, but everyone knows she's lying. Henry seems to be falling for Lydia's poor me act, but that will come into play later. The interrogators regroup outside and Michonne lets Tara know she will be leaving to warn her people. Tara and Michonne thank each other, which goes some way towards mending their broken fences, but they've still got a long way to go before the Whisperers are defeated. Next, we see Eugene get his leg set by Siddiq. After Siddiq leaves Eugene alone with Rosita, Eugene tries once again to profess his love for her. And once again, major fail. Poor Eugene is the king of the friend zone in the apocalypse. Outside, as Rosita is sick, the speculation is confirmed to be true as Rosita is in fact pregnant and the baby is in fact Siddiq's. This may seem like good news, but we're not sure it is. In the comics, Eugene and Rosita did eventually end up together after Rosita shot him down numerous times, and she did in fact have a secret affair with Siddiq. Rosita does get pregnant, and although Eugene is not the father, he vows to take care of the baby. Eugene never gets a chance as Rosita's head ends up on a pike after the fair. We really hope they won't kill a pregnant Rosita, but you've seen the Red Wedding, right? The following scene shows Henry and Daryl talking outside as a grave is dug for poor Jesus. Daryl tells Henry he'll still have to go back to his cell, and Henry seems genuinely sorry. After that, it's back to the Negan show as the fallen savior finally arrives back home to the sanctuary, and it is not how he left it. The "Savior Save Us" writing on the walls is ironic, which is not lost on Negan. Negan finds an old savior and one of his last links to the past. After that, the story cuts to Michonne and Aaron getting ready to leave. Aaron admits Michonne was right to be so cautious and that he will trust her in the future. That scene transitions into a Daryl and Dog appearance, as apparently Dog gets to pick where they sleep. In some footage we've already seen, Michonne convinces Daryl to stay at the hilltop and help Tara, and she's gonna need it. The story then cuts back to the Negan show for yet another installment. Negan wanders the ruins of his sanctuary, and this shot is a great throwback to Negan sitting at the head of the table, only now his table is very empty. Negan tries a little spring cleaning in the sanctuary and realizes he'll have to take out some more walkers, although interestingly enough, he can't bring himself to kill the old savior walker. Negan looks to Judith's compass for guidance and finally severs all of his ties to the past by killing Big Richie. The story then cuts to Jesus' funeral, as the members of the community ceremoniously put the nails in his coffin. This act strengthens Daryl's determination to get Lydia to talk, and he storms back into the prison. Daryl is extra tough here with Lydia and threatens to drag her out for the community to lynch her unless she talks. Lydia gives a little more information about the Whisperer's true motives, but is still not broken by Daryl's threats. Henry tries to stick up for Lydia, and Daryl shuts him up pretty quickly before leaving. The beauty of this whole scene is that it was all part of Daryl's plan. He senses Henry's naive, trusting nature would come to Lydia's defenses, and that since Henry didn't know he was part of the plan, he'd be believable. This will help Henry and Lydia create a bond. Lydia will then trust him and possibly reveal real information while Daryl listens right outside. This next scene is one of the funniest all season, as Negan is heading somewhere in the bike he had stashed in the sanctuary. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Judith is standing there, keeping her promise, firing her dad's Colt Python at Negan's bike. Negan takes an amazing spill as Judith watches. Their back and forth really is fun to watch, aside from the creepy factor. Hands down, the best two lines of the episode.
You sure as shit did.
Language. I'm a kid, asshole.
Negan claims he's heading back to Alexandria and that he realizes there's nothing else out there for him. The next scene shows Enid and Magna on the lookout post at the hilltop. Enid is worried about Alden, and Magna tries to reassure her that he's in good hands with Luke. Have you met Luke? In the closing scene of the episode, we get to see how Luke and Alden's search party ends up. The guys get pretty spooked out by walkers who just stop moving as they've never heard of a Whisperer. Alpha approaches like a boss and pulls out her shotty. Instead of whispering the iconic lines, "Don't move," Angela Kang chose this line.
Trail ends here.
We love you, Angela, but really? We have high hopes for the back half of Season 9 after a subtle but strong premiere, and can't wait to see what twists and turns the survivors encounter along the journey. However, big news broke just days ago that does put a dark cloud over the apocalyptic drama. There have been rumors floating around with no substantiation that DANAI GURIRA was leaving the show. This time, the rumors were right on the money, as Hollywood Reporter broke the story on Friday. Gurira will only be in a handful of episodes in Season 10 and will likely move on to appear in the upcoming Rick-centric AMC films, but beyond that is a mystery. The article only cites sources and gives no names, but it is Hollywood Reporter, who is a reputable media outlet, and we believe them. After the show is really showing signs of life and getting good, they do this? Even though we'll be happy to see Michonne reunited with Rick, which we believe is a pretty strong possibility, imagining a flagship series without Carl, Rick, or Michonne is a tough thing to do. What do you think? Can the show sustain with only Carol and Daryl to anchor it? Can other characters like Gabriel, Eugene, Magna, and Connie carry the story and pick up the slack as the original cast members move on? We think it's possible, but Angela Kang has got a lot of really hard work ahead of her before the show gets there. Also, it kind of sucks to know so early that Michonne is leaving. With more leaks than a bullet-riddled apocalyptic roof, maybe AMC should work on their confidentiality. Thanks so much for watching our videos, everyone. As always, we're on the lookout for new promotional material and insider info to help prove or disprove the rumors out there. Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Binge Rampage. Turn on the notifications button for our channel so you can see our next video as soon as it comes out. And don't forget to subscribe.
Now, how's about a big hug for your old pal Merle?